if you do that. All right, make sure I push record. All right, so we're going to break the first words, words down. Sensation versus perception. What is the difference? What is the difference between sensation and then perception? Presley has perception right. Give me something with the sensation. Because she's using the word feel, and that's a word that's kind of subjective. So what is sensation versus perception? She literally says perception is how you process what's sensation. There you go with that feel word again. Nope, you don't have to feel to have sensation. Body reacts in regards to uh, there we go. In regards to the stimulant. So literally, sensation is the stimulus that your senses pick up. You then use perception to perceive it. Sensation is literally the stimulus that your senses picks up, but perception is literally how you perceive it. How do you process it? Does that make sense? Are we understanding it? We're all on the same page. Yes? All right, good. All right, illusions. Oftentimes we deal with this a lot. Illusions are literally, when perception does not accurately present or represent the world. We do this in a various of things. Let's just say, for instance, you are stressed about something. Is it really a stressful situation or is it an illusion? In one of the chapters we talk about there's a difference called your stress and distress. People just call it stress, but there are two different types of stress. Your stress is good stress. Distress is bad stress. You want to have your stress in your life because your stress is a motivation. Distress is a disconnect. So, yes, you do want to have it. It's just the intensity in which you have it. So, is stress an illusion? It's real. Okay. How many of you have ever been under stress? Was it real? Or was it an illusion? It was a dream. Ah, so now it's an illusion. Oh, do I? Preston is right. It is both. There are some certain parts of stress that is real. But the problem with stress, it's brought about your perception. Okay? It's not about your sensation. Then there are parts that are illusions because we do stress about things that do not exist because we create a whole new world of what if, what could, what might happen. Okay, so you have this illusion. It happens more than just what we process. It also happens on how we feel. How many of you ever went like this and thought something was on you, but technically there was nothing there? Okay, how many of you swear you saw something walk by that technically there wasn't there? You don't talk about it. You just go like, oh, and you kind of look like, did anybody else see that? If nobody else mentions it, I won't either. Okay, how many times have you heard something like, did I just hear something? I know I've heard my name called a few times in the store, and I'm like, okay, does nobody else want to act like they heard me? Then I'm gonna act like I didn't hear it either. So illusions, all your senses literally have illusions. Every last senses you have a false sense of what reality really is. It's a break. Okay, it's okay. It's not an accurate part of what represents the world. All right. Psychophysics. Psychophysics literally is the study of the relationship between physical events and the corresponding experience of those events. That's a whole technical term of literally just saying psychophysics are the people who study sensation and perception. Okay? Psychophysics are the people who study sensation and perception. That's it. Just Now, inside of this field, they've actually discovered what we call the threshold. The first one we're going to talk about is what is considered the absolute threshold. The absolute threshold is the smallest unit that your senses needs to detect a stimulus is present. Let me say it one more time. The smallest unit that your stimulus, that your senses need to detect a stimulus is present. Okay, let me rephrase that one more time. The smallest unit that your senses needs to detect a stimulus is present. Got it? The smallest unit that your senses needs to detect a stimulus is present. Does that make sense? If you say yes, now explain it. Exactly. That smallest unit that Pussy would need to hear the TV, that's her absolute threshold. How many of you have ever made sweet tea, lemonade, Kool-Aid, some beverage that contains sugar? How many of you made it? Now, how many of you, the people that you made it for, was like, this is great, first time you made it? Not a lot of you. What did they say? Not sweet enough, or it's too sweet. The reason why we've got this discrepancy is your absolute threshold for sugar might be higher than theirs or lower than theirs, which literally means you need a smaller unit to detect sugar is in your food. Salt is another one that you can kind of tell. Someone literally says, did you put any salt in it? And you're like, this is very salty. Your smallest unit, literally your absolute threshold of salt might be a lot smaller than someone else's. Does that make sense? Even in regards to smell, some people might literally say, do you smell like that? And you're like, no, I don't smell it. I don't smell it. Oh, I smell it now. That's your absolute threshold. Okay, everybody's absolute threshold is different. Okay, it's down from the way you hear things, see things, smell things, feel things. Right, so we got vision, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. Now, this one is a riddle. I'm going to first give you the riddle, then I'll explain the riddle. Okay, so we have what's called difference threshold, also called Weber's law, also called just noticeable difference. It has three names: difference threshold, just noticeable difference, and Weber's law. Difference threshold, just noticeable difference, and Weber's law. Now here goes the definition. You have to have at least 50% of a change in your absolute threshold for you to notice a difference. You have to have at least 50% change in your absolute threshold for you to notice a difference. You have to have at least a 50% change in your absolute threshold for you to notice a difference. So if we go back to the salty food, how many of you like salty food? You like salt on your food? Okay, so I'm a person who cooks with no salt. So if you came over to my house and I cooked for you, you'd probably be like, oh my goodness, Sheree, did you put any salt in here? And I'm like, you don't need any salt, that's fine. Now, you sprinkle a little bit. You might literally say, can you put some salt in? Sure. I might put it to my taste. Now that's a couple sprinkles, and I'm gonna be literally saying it tastes like salt just got poured on it. You might literally say, put some more, and I might put one more sprinkle. If it does not reach at least 50% of your absolute threshold, you will literally keep telling me, keep adding salt. Does that make sense? Yet somebody next to you might say, quit adding that salt because I've reached 50% of their absolute threshold. Yes? Grandma and her TV. Grandma says turn the TV up. You turn it up and you feel like, oh my gosh, we are sitting in the movie theater. And she says, turn it up. You have to reach at least 50% of her absolute threshold for her to notice you turned it up. Everybody got it? Yes, no? Fully understand it. At least 50%, exactly. It has to be at least 50% or more. Perfect example would be your mother when she said turn something down and you kind of just hit the button to be funny. And she says, did you turn it down? You're like, I turned it down. You have to reach at least 50% of her absolute threshold for her to notice you have done anything. She has to at least 50%. Your threshold is really low. My dad used to use a phrase, my mom could hear a rat piss on cotton. Because she could hear everything, anything, always. So if we just pushed a button, she would literally say, turn that down. And you're like, seriously? But because she could hear so low, you would walk into the room and you would literally say, Mom, can you hear the TV? And she says, yeah, if you quit talking. You'd be like, oh my gosh. But her absolute threshold was so low that she could hear you. If you got up and coughed in the middle of the night, she heard it. If you sneezed, she heard it. You blew your nose, she heard it. But that would be her absolute threshold. Compared to my dad, you probably could bring a bulldozer, knock the wall down, reconstruct the whole house, and he would probably be like, what happened? Because his absolute threshold is higher. Does that make sense? Your absolute threshold will change over time. Okay? If you are trying to, like if you're trying to pay attention to it, yes. Also, your work environment, your stress level, your age will change a lot of your absolute thresholds. Biofeedback. hmm Um, Biofeedback is a training that you have to go to, and what actually happens is you become so connected with your body's the mind and body connection. You become so connected with your body that you're in tune to everything your body is telling you at all times. And if you become aware of it at all times, you literally will be able to process, stop, change. You will be able to control it more than it controls you. You can actually go, it's literally a therapy session that they teach you how to do biofeedback. Yep. Takes time though. Adaptation and deprivation. So your senses go through these two different changes. Adaptation. Adaptation is literally when your senses adapts to your surrounding. Adaptation, your senses adapt to your surroundings. All of you have a smell in your house. You don't smell it any longer. You have adapted to that smell. The reason why is because you've been constantly exposed to the smell. Now, if someone new comes into your home, they'll literally say, what's that scent? You don't recognize it literally because you have now adapted to it. Cologne and perfume is another thing. You spray your cologne and perfume so much that you become adapted to it. And people say, you smell so good, and you're like, I don't smell it any longer because you've adapted to the scent. If you wear a watch, when you first put the watch on, you can feel it. As the day goes on, your skin adapts to the feeling. You don't recognize the watch is there any longer. If you can find out if somebody just got married, the first thing they'll start doing is keep turning because they are not used to the ring until their finger adapts to the feeling, and then they're okay. Does that make sense? If you ever wear a ponytail holder and you put the ponytail too tight, eventually it adapts, and then you don't feel it the same way. Glasses is another one. When you first get glasses, you're kind of like, once you adapt to it, you don't feel them any longer. They're there. And you just, how many of you literally cell phones is a good one, or sunglasses? Anything that you can carry, you're literally looking around the house saying, you're on the phone, and you're like, where did I put that cell phone? And you're literally like, where did I put my cell phone? And you're like, let me call my mom and see if she knows. Oh my gosh. And it hits. Or you're like, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? And you ask somebody like, "Where's my glasses?" And they're like, "On your face," and you like, "Flip, oh," because you adapt to it. I'll even show a little bit. This might sound a little really horrible, but I'm going to show how you adapt on a daily basis. When you're in the bathroom, you're having your moment. You've been there a while. What's the smell? Yeah, that's how people think. Okay? The first few minutes, you're like, "Oh my goodness." After you've been there 5 minutes, you're like, "Oh, it's not that bad." Okay? And somebody walks by like, "Are you dying inside?" And you're like, "It's not that bad." It is that bad. It's just you've adapted to it. Okay? Now, people also have what's called deprivation. Deprivation occurs when you have an absence of the senses. The senses no longer picks up. Literally, people who work in bakeries, who work in chicken plants, who work in um, garbage, sanitary places, they literally become they literally have deprivation. They no longer pick up the sense. They can smell garbage to where garbage no longer affects them. Does that make sense? Hospital. How many of you gone into a hospital before? What's the smell in a hospital? It does stink to me too. It smells like dead people. See what Presley thinks it smells like scrubs. Don't know how scrubs smell, but that's what she smells. Okay? When I walk into the hospital, I'm like, "Oh my God, I could not work here all day." Oh, it smells like death. And the nurses are just walking around like, doo doo doo, because they're now, deprivation has occurred. To them, it smells just like a place. It's nothing, they don't even smell the scent. Does that make sense? Okay? It can be an advantage, but sometimes it's a disadvantage. Perfect example would be a person that's a garbage man. At home, will he ever smell the garbage? Another thing would be people who have cats, and you walk over and you're like, "Oh my God, their house is horrible." They have deprivation. They don't smell it. Deprivation. All right. Don't worry about the signal detection theory. Just read about it. Detecting light. So now let's go into the eye. We're starting with the eye. The first thing you need to know in regards to eye are the properties of light. Understand, the eye sees things by light. The eye sees things by light. And we're going to actually break down the eye into different parts and understand why or how the eye is picking up the different things. Okay, so we're going to look at the pupil, the iris, the cornea, the retina, the fovea, and the optic nerve. We're going to start with the cornea. The cornea is the outside protector of the eye. The outside protector of the eye. It actually bends. The cornea, outside protector of the eye, and it actually bends. It bends to allow light to come or enter in. Once it enters the cornea, the lens is then next. The lens actually focuses on objects in an effort to understand the shape. The lens actually focuses on objects to understand the shape. Your lens actually changes shapes. So the cornea bends, the lens changes shapes. The iris actually controls the amount of light. The iris controls the amount of light. The pupil dilates to allow more or less light. The pupil dilates to allow more or less light. Okay. Once it passes all of the first part of the eye, it then moves into what we call the retina. Okay? Inside of the retina, you have what is called the fovea. You also have your rods and your cones. Your rods are going to pick up light. Your cones are going to pick up color. Right? Your rods are picking up your light. Your cones are going to pick up color. Rods are picking up light. Cones are picking up color. The cones do not work unless the rods filter in the right amount of light. So, for instance, how many of you have ever gotten dressed in the dark? I hope everybody has before. You have a sock drawer. All of your socks are in this drawer. Can you tell the difference between the black sock, the blue sock, and the brown sock in the dark? Why not? No light. Can you see the color? The reason why is because if the rods don't pick up or filter in, the cones won't see it. Okay? Be very careful though, because the rods are very, very sensitive to light. This is why if a person ever turns the light on after you've been asleep for a while, it gives you that sharp pain inside of the rod. The rods are literally overstimulated and it gives you the dots really quickly because it hurts. Literally you have to close your eyes real quick to kind of gradually give the rods the light, because rods are very sensitive to light. Okay? It can be overstimulated. One thing you want to know, rods and cones are inside of the retina, but they're not inside the fovea. Rods and cones are inside the retina, but they're not inside the fovea. Fovea? Nope. Rods and cones are inside the retina, but not inside the fovea. Now, all of the information goes from the rods and cones, cornea lens, everything, and it hits what is called the optic nerve. The optic nerve then sends an impulse or stimulus to which part of the brain that is going to switch the information to where the brain can use it. The optic nerve will send the information to which part of the brain in an effort that the brain can use it. What's the name of the part? Y'all keep trying to send it to the lobes. The brain needs to have this one part so that it can pick up all your senses. Which part of the brain does the optic nerve send the information to so that it can process? The thalamus. The thalamus picks it up and it performs what is called transduction. The thalamus performs transduction when it receives the information from the optic nerve. Transduction is the process of switching information. The thalamus picks up the signal from the optic nerve and performs transduction. Transduction is the process of switching information that the brain can use. That the brain can use. So remember we talked about the stimulus, the senses will pick up all the stimulus, but the brain doesn't understand it. The thalamus must perform transduction for the brain to understand anything that the senses picks up. Did everybody follow that? All right. Accommodation will come back to dark adaptation. Dark adaptation, your eyes will adapt to the darkness at all points and all times in your life. Your eyes will adapt to the darkness at all points in your life. Your eyes will adapt to the darkness. Now, remember we talked about in the beginning theory. This is the theory that a lot of people have in regards to why we see color. There's two different theories on why we see color, and you have to learn both of them. They both have proven to be right. It's kind of your choice. Do you believe in one or not, or the other? But the fact is they both have proven. You first need to know the way that they first detect color is using three different properties. You need to know the three properties: hue, saturation, and lightness. Know the three properties of color: hue, saturation, and lightness. The three properties of color. The three properties of color: hue, saturation, and lightness. Now, the theory is literally trichromatic theory and the opponent process theory. These are the two different theories on how we see color. We're going to talk about the first one, the trichromatic theory. The trichromatic theory, what does tri mean? Three. The trichromatic theory literally says that our eyes pick up only three colors: red, blue, and green. Okay, so the trichromatic theory says we only see the three colors: red, blue, and green. It then says the other colors that we see are literally created by combining these three colors. We only see red, blue, and green. Other colors are created by us combining these three colors. You mean the basic colors of life? Yeah, unfortunately, the trichromatic theory threw the yellow out, which would probably have made a little bit more sense, being that I don't understand how we see some of lighter colors from those three colors. But again, remember, they've proven the two different ways. You got to choose which one do I believe in. Once you see the next one, you'll see they technically sound similar, but yet they're different. And it's a good question. The idea in psychology, you guys are going to find out, there's a theory about everything, and somebody else has created another theory about the same thing. And it might literally mean, depending on who I studied, I got a different result. Okay, so we got the trichromatic theory. The next one is the opponent process theory. The opponent process is a little bit different. The opponent process really says, the opponent means what? What does opponent mean? The opposite. So literally, this one says that your eyes actually pick up pairs of color that burst new color. Your eyes pick up pair of color and burst new color. Now it pairs with its opponent. It pairs with its opposite. So it literally says the colors pair with its opposite and they burst new color. They pair with their opposite and burst new color. Opponent process. So it literally says its opponent, it finds its opponent color, it processes a new color. Okay, so you have the trichromatic theory and the opponent process theory. These are literally the ways that we see color. All right. Inside of color, we also have what is called the after image. I want you to stare at the dot for a little minute. Just keep staring at the dot. What do you see? The flag. Okay? That's part of that opponent process. The opponent process theory literally says your eyes literally gave an after image by bursting the color and leaving an after effect. Okay, so the after image literally is the burst of leftover color. That's all it is, the burst of leftover color. Right? In the eyes, we also have some different components inside of them, and we're going to go through what we consider to be the visual aspect of the word, or what we call perceptual organization. This theory is found by Gestalt. What do we know about Gestalt? We might as well start reviewing for the test. What do we know about Gestalt? What do we know about it? Gestalt psychology, what's the theory? Sum of the whole, which means what? We look at the big picture, not its parts. So inside of our eyes, in regards to how we stimulate and see things, we literally look at big pictures. So what he did was divide different parts in regards to our perceptual organization. And we call them the Gestalt laws of organization. The first one is proximity. We literally put things and group things according to their proximity, how close they are to each other. We literally group things and visually see things based on how close they are to each other. Continuity. We actually continue patterns based on what we perceive to be in order. We continue patterns based on what we perceive to be order. We continue patterns based on what we perceive to be order. Literally, if we see a pattern of what we think is organized, for instance, these two here, which one would you pick? Which one do you feel appears to be most in order in regards to, you would continue that pattern first? One on left? Who picks left? All who will pick this side, raise your hand. Who will pick the other side? Okay, more of you will pick the other side. Why do you pick the first side versus the second? Okay. People who pick this side, why'd you pick this side? And usually most people would pick, listen what Natasha said, she says it's different enough. So her thing was, she literally is going to be drawn to the things that are different. Probably more drawn to the things that are more complex. This literally was, it's simple. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. No problem. This one you might want to go back to make sure, is it always, okay, broke, broke, solid? Most people will pick this. So literally what continually means is we pick the simplest patterns and we just continue them out. How many brush your teeth before you get into the shower? How many brush your teeth while you're in the shower? I just learned that a couple of years ago that people do that. How many people brush their teeth after the shower? Why? That's the final touch. Because your teeth gonna get dirty while you're in the shower. It's a habit. Okay. You guys don't even know why you do it, do you? You just continue the pattern. And it's literally like, it's worked. I'm not going to mess it up. I'm just going to continue it. The same reason why you study the way you do, we cook the way we do, we just do a continuity. It works. We're just going to keep the pattern going. Some of you, your toothbrushes is in the same spot as it was when you were a child. And I hope not the same toothbrush, but it's the same spot. Okay, if you look at your kitchen, look at your mom's kitchen, it's probably really similar to where you keep dishes. Because you're just continuing a pattern. And that's the same thought. We just continue patterns that make things simpler for us. Okay? Similarities. We group things according to their similar qualities. We group things according to their similar qualities. We group things according to their similar qualities. The grocery store knows that we need this. That's why they put all of the fruit in one area, all the produce in one area. You guys do this without even knowing. Say we all go to the mayor's dinner, and all of the people that are in political offices are at this dinner. We leave the dinner and people say, who was all there? What are you going to say? Who was all there? Politicians. What else we got? The mayor. Bobby didn't see nobody but the mayor. The mayor is the mayor. Who else was there? We got the politicians. Who saw somebody else? Most of you are going to see either politicians or just a whole bunch of political people, just some, just figureheads. The reason why, because you're literally going to group them by their similarities. It was easier just to say they were all there. Does that make sense? You're not going to really say, oh, the mayor of so-and-so, the mayor of so-and-so. You're not going to go through all that. A bunch of politicians. Proximity is their closeness. Because you might be, if I've got Francesca way over there, you over here, just because you guys are this far apart, if somebody walks in this room, they're going to literally say, who is all in the room? Some students. Has nothing to do with your proximity. It has to do with your similarity. Exactly. Yeah. Physical proximity literally means how close can I put these together? Similarity literally means how close are they alike? So I'm going to find qualities and similarity. A lot of things that we do in regards to how we perceive people are based on similarities. Does that make sense? If I literally, trying to think of, okay, Asian population. Literally, is everybody in the Asian population Chinese? Are they all Korean? Why do we group them all together? Because we literally look at their eyes and literally say, oh my gosh, she's Chinese. No, she's not. But what we've done is looked at the similarity. All of them have this type of eye. We're grouping them together. Does that make sense? That's how we literally use similarities across the board. We do it in so many different things without even noticing that we do it. Got it? How many of you go into a mall and people are like, well, what's at that mall? And you're like, you don't want to go there. Why not? You just don't want to go there. Well, what's there? It's just not the mall you want to go to. Well, what's there? You're probably going to use similarity to describe what you saw. Make sense? All right. Closure. Closure literally means you fill in the gaps to complete a picture. You fill in the gaps to complete a picture. The problem is you fill in the gaps mentally, not physically, to complete a picture. You fill in the gaps to complete a picture. Mentally, not physically. Does that make sense? So let's look at, if I draw, what's that? No, it's not, but you just filled it in. Because technically, it would probably be more of a C7 than it is a heart. Why'd you say it's a heart? Because it's not. You just closed it in. You're just like, oh, it looks like a heart. She drew a heart on the board. No, she didn't. She technically drew C7. But because it was so close, you were just like, oh, that's a heart. Does that make sense? We fill in gaps. Our dreams are the same way. Closure is done with our dreams. We do not dream in story form. We dream in pieces. But when you tell the story, you complete closure. Because it makes no sense to you to tell how you really had it. You cannot tell it in the sequence because it makes no sense. So when you tell the story, all of a sudden, unconsciously, you tell a story. But that's not what happened. but you don't even know what part happened and what didn't because your mind automatically does closure to make sense of what occurred. They're not. Hmm. It's like snip shots. This is why you could be on top of the roof, then in the car, then at the house, then this person entered, then you at the store, and you're like, I was all over the place in my dream. No, you were not. It gave you it in snapshots, but what you did was climb down the building, got in the car, drove to the house, then got in the ocean, then came back. No, you didn't. That's not what really happened. Hmm. And sometimes you don't remember the rest. That's how dreams work. Once we get to the dream thing, you'll find out dreams mean something, and when you snip them, we just feel in. We gotta disconnect all that extra fluff you gave for the snip shot. Okay. Good form. Good form literally means you create or you accept what is in the best form for you. You create or accept what is in the best form for you. For instance, these examples. Which one looks best to you? Right side or left side? What's best? Right or left? Why do you pick right? Oh, that is your left side. Right side or left side? So, right side, which looks best. Why does this look best? Because your idea is that's a good form. If it leaves here, somebody saying something's missing, you didn't complete it, you're not finished. Okay. How many times have you looked at something and say they didn't finish that? Artwork is a good one. I went to the High Museum and there's literally a painting here, and the painting literally, honest to God, I'm gonna redo the painting for you right here. That's the painting. This is no. It's blue too. I don't have a blue, and it literally cost $30,000. I don't know. I just sat there for a while like this, and I kept saying, I asked the lady, "Is this for real?" And she says, "That's a masterpiece." And I said, "Did he finish it?" And she says, "It's complete." And I'm like, "Oh my." So I sat there like, I'm missing. And I said, "Is it something?" She says, "Don't you see the strokes?" Like, but it goes back to the thought that somebody said it's open ended. And when she started explaining this blue dot in the middle of this white paper, she had a philosophy of how it was created, why it was in the center, what it represented in this field of whiteness. It's a blue dot. My idea was put some more color on there, put some lines on it, and give me $30,000 worth of ink. And she was like, "We would never sell it." I'm like, "You're right." But not for the reason you think. Okay? But it goes back to our perception, depending on what we perceive. And that was a good answer. I would choose this because it's opening, it's flowing, it gives the opportunity. Some people are like, no, close it up, let me finish it and be done with it. It makes sense. So does that make sense? Good form is still going to be, same with similarity. Some people might literally see, if I was Asian, I probably won't see Asians the same. I might literally look at them and say, there's no way that she's Chinese. Don't you see her eyes are different? Does that make sense? Okay, it's based on literally our perception, but the idea is that we literally find those things that create our sense and our perception that we understand it. Got it? That's because on the test, it's some of these questions, and you got to figure out of those which one is it. Yeah. So you got those, right? You got that's probably the easiest part, right? Good. Okay. Let's hope so. Now, first one. What do you see? Two faces. Some people see a table. Some see a cup. We see a trophy. Trophy. Candle holder. What we see? Kissy faces. Kissy faces. Literally, this is based on your perception. But this one is where we start to look a little bit closer. Who sees the young lady? Who sees the old lady? Let's try this again. If you see the young lady, raise your hand. Who sees the old lady? Raise your hand. And who can see both? Who sees the young lady first? Who sees the old lady? The old lady first. Okay, it is a perception base. Okay, we don't see any old lady. Who cannot see the young lady? All right, let's look at the old lady. This is her nose. This is her mouth. This is her chin. And that's a mole on her nose. Let's try it again. Mole on her nose. This is her nose. This is the top where a mustache would be if she had one. This is her mouth. And this is her chin. You don't see her. This is her eye right here. This is her eye. Her other eye. The bridge of her nose. This is her hair. This is a cap over her head. Okay, some of you won't see it. Some of you will keep staring and eventually she'll pop up. What we really find out, who sees the young lady first? Okay, you are usually a person that looks ahead. You are usually a visionary. You don't hold to things that have happened in the past. You literally go to the idea that let's keep moving forward. Let's keep moving forward. Who saw the old lady first? All right, you're usually a hold to the past type of person. If it happened before, you want to make sure it never happens again. You literally dictate a lot of things based on what has already occurred in your life more than what is about to happen in your life. Okay, and it's literally just based on what you perceived first, the old versus the new. Okay, so we all saw the same thing, we all perceived something different. The perception was based on our experience that we didn't even know we had. You still can't see it? She might pop in later in the week. just keep staring at her. She might come back. Yeah, the old lady she's here. This nose is so big that nose and that chin are humongous. Yes. Moving over is not going to help. All right, in regards to shape consistency, size consistency, shape consistency, color consistency, I just want you to know the definition. Know the definition of these three concepts. Size consistency, shape consistency, color consistency. Know the definition of these three concepts. Which means you got to do some reading. No. Reading is fundamental. Now, inside of your eyes, you have two different theories. You have what are called binuclear cues and mononuclear cues. Bi literally means two. These are the things that you need two eyes for. Binuclear, you need two eyes for these things. Retinal disparity and convergence. Retinal disparity literally means both retinas pick up an image to validate location. Both retinas pick up an image to validate location. Both retinas pick up an image to validate location. Both retinas pick up an image to validate location. After you finish writing, put your pen about 1 inch from your nose, pen or pencil. Now, as you put it there, close your right eye, then close your left eye, and close your right eye, and close your left eye. Has the pen moved? Pen keeps moving, doesn't it? The reason why, because each retina must pick up a picture in an effort for your brain to properly locate where that pen is. If you just have one eye, you'll have to turn like this to make sure, because you need both retinas to pick up. So both retinas pick up an image, it then converges over and creates retinal disparity. He'll probably do this a lot. And what he's going to do is he's got to make sure where he really sees something. He might hit the sidewalk a little bit more too. My mom always says it jumped out. Literally because one eye is a little worse. So her location, sometimes the sidewalk appears to be further than it really was. Because if she had both, she could picture its proper location. Okay, if you ever wear a patch or something happens to your eye, you kind of got to make sure, because you might bump into a couple of things just because you can't figure the location. You can still see it, because literally what happens is the hand moves. The hand technically doesn't, but retinal disparity, both eyes are needed to make sure the location stays the same. Okay? Convergence, take your pen back and move your pen closer and closer to your nose. What's happening to the eyes? They're moving over. Convergence literally means it literally converges to find location in regards to proximity of your face. Convergence occurs in an effort to locate proximity to your face. Your eyes converge. They turn inward. Closest to your face. Monocular cue, which literally means one eye. Texture. The texture of a surface, you only need one eye to detect that. The texture of a surface, you only need one eye to detect the texture of a surface. All right, you guys. Top down, bottom up. Top down, bottom up. Now, we've got your senses mastered. Sensation has been done. We now have to process. So now it's time to perceive, our perception. Top down, bottom up. Top down literally means, let's start with bottom up because easier. Bottom up literally means you literally see what you see. Bottom up. You literally describe or see what you see. You see what you see. Bottom up. What you see is what you see. It is literally what your eyes pick up. It is the true stimulus of what your eye picks up. Top down is how you process what you see. Top down is how you process what you see. Okay, we go outside and, nope, let's not even say that. It would be more like, car accident. Okay, two people, we're gonna go right outside on Mundy Mills Road. We're right in front of Pizza Hut. Two cars, two white cars, have hit each other head on. What happened? Tell me what do you see? If I said, what happened over there on Mundy Mill Road, you're going to tell me what? Two cars hit each other. Is that what happened? You just drove. Actually, Leslie, you just drove up on it. You just whirled by. You done got the two cars. The man that messed up. How many of you ever been in a car accident? Okay. Natasha, hints how people take their exam. Everybody like, was she talking about a wreck, or just a hit? What does she mean by a wreck, an accident? That's how most people do in psychology. So, who was in a car accident before? All right, you're probably gonna see something totally different than a person who's never been in a car accident. Why are you gonna see something different? You're gonna see different because your idea is, I've been here before. I know how this feels. I see it a little different than another person. Now, all I said was you saw two cars that hit each other head on. Does that mean they were both moving? No. They were moving at one point? Literally, if we did bottom up, you're literally going to say there were two cars that were touching each other. That's what I saw. Depends on what you saw. Now, what do you see? Top down, two cars destroyed each other. Head-on collision. I'm going to process based on my experience. How many? Okay, let me pick up a car. 1960. See, this is going to show you how much I know about cars. 65. That's a good year for cars. Okay. 1965 vintage. Corvette, Porsche, something. All right, there we go. Only driven 10,000 miles. That sounds really good, doesn't it? All right. Now, I go out and my keys accidentally scrape the side of this candy apple red 1965 Corvette Porsche. We got a Corvette Porsche. This is very rare. And I accidentally scratched the side. Now, the owner walks out and sees what? She has destroyed my car. I see what? A minor little scratch that you don't even see unless the light hits it. Who sees what? How are we processing this? The bottom up? That's really what's happening. Does that make sense? When you say and tell something that happened in your life today, depending if you're talking about what actually happened, you're doing bottom up. If you're telling it from your experience of it, you're doing top down. What you actually saw, bottom up. Fatima just saw the old lady. If you bottom up versus top down. So you got the difference. There are scenarios on your test. You need to decide, is that bottom up or top down? Have you mastered it? Some of y'all look like heck to the no. We need feedback today. Uh-huh. Uh-uh. Okay, we got one that's understands this. And I'm about to tell you, that's a good question. Bottom up literally means from its simplistic point. Bottom up literally means I'm going to work myself from the bottom. What I see is what I see. Top down, I'm literally working from how I analyzed it, going down to what it might be. Bottom up, I'm coming from the bottom. What is there is there. Top down, I'm analyzing, trying to filter down what I might have seen. So if you read the question and it's just basically what has happened, you know that is bottom up. We're working from the basics, moving our way up. If it's an overview, I'm probably taking experience working from what I've analyzed, trying to move down. Got it? Are you just really sleepy? Holiday was just really, really good to you? You just can't believe we're covering this. What's happening? We just all have really mastered this. You can't believe it's this easy. I'm going with that. I can't believe it's this easy. Okay, so this word probably says what? Yep, see, that's what I tell. That right there shows me top-down processing. Okay, shows me what you're used to think, because that really does not say that. Okay, but you process things based on what you think they should be. This is what this kind of tells you. You don't always see what you actually saw. You actually process based on what you think you saw, based on your experience. That's a little different. That's how we'll talk about that in language. The mind only reads the first and last letter. Everything in between is a waste of time. And it's really called serial position effect. If I give you a list of words, you're guaranteed to remember the first thing and the last thing. Everything in the middle, you might catch a couple of them. First day of class, last day of class, you will remember that. Stuff in the middle, you might not remember it. If you literally, people go, how was psychology class? You'd be like, on the first day, she do blah, blah, blah. And then the last day, we go over stuff. And they like, well, okay, well, how about the other 3 months? And you're like, I mean, you do a lot of other stuff. Because that first and last is what you need. Okay? So you got top down. You guys said it? Yes, so I'm going to keep moving. Now, let's show you how you perceive stuff differently than what you actually see. We're going to do some top down, bottom up experiment. On the next slide, I want you to locate the T, the red T. There's the red T. All right? Now locate the red T. Now, this is where we really start to have it. Now, on the next slide, name the color of ink as quickly as possible. We're going to try to do this just so we can all agree on the color of ink. We're about to watch how people see 50 shades of colors. This is what? We're going to say that's blue. Red, blue, pink, green. Red, pink, brown. Brown, right. We're not going to say fuchsia. We're not going to say lime green. So we agreed this was what? Now let's do it all together. We hoping everybody know their colors. Because I hear we start off good with the red, then we kind of fade it out like people didn't know the colors no more. So, kindergarten class, let's review colors. We see this is, don't be scared. Y'all's like, yeah, y'all like, she about to do something. And I am. But that was beside the point. Now, on the next slide, name the color of ink you see. What color did we say this was? We said it was going to be brown. What color? Look what's happening. See how that just worked? That's that top down, bottom up. You are going literally top down. Top down literally means what I perceive it should be is what it should be. The word says blue, it should be blue. I am doing top down. That makes sense. But bottom up says is what you see is what you saw. Does that make sense? Got it? Good. You've mastered the trick. And we're going to stop here until